Hey everybody, I thought I'd show you something that I worked on yesterday which I thought was pretty cool. And what I'm doing here is I'm using the Power Virtual Agents, and I was working through how you'd actually authenticate someone coming into the conversation. So sometimes you want to have the Power Virtual Agents performing a chat with people, and it could be customers, and you don't really necessarily need to vet them out. But in this case, what I was setting up was an employee self-service virtual agent, and I needed to make sure that the person was actually an employee before we started helping them, and that would allow us then to go out and uh, provide more detailed information or maybe some confidential information if they want to. So the scenario is I wanted to really send them a authorization code to make sure that they could prove who they are, and I could maybe do that through email or through SMS. So this is what I came up with, and what I've got is I've got my Power Virtual Agent, and it's going out and starting off with a trigger phrase which is help, or I need help, and the bot replies back and says, I'm sorry you're having problems, let me validate you. Now, the first thing I do is I get the bot to ask me for my email address. Now, when I go out and do that, then I have a flow that's running that I created. And what it does is it goes out and it searches for the user within Active Directory. And then only if the user is found does it say that this email is true. So I'm going to Active Directory just to make sure that this email address is correct. Now, if it is correct, then it continues on. If it's not, then it's going down through the condition, showing a message that maybe you've typed in the wrong email address. And then I ask a question here, do you want to re-enter it? And if it's true, then it goes back to enter in your email address, and it will continue through. So I've got this loop that continues on. Now, the second part is, now that I've validated the email address, then it's going to send an email. And again, I use Power Automate for that. And to get this working, what I do is I actually search through the users again within Active Directory and find that email that I had. Now, what I do then is I check to see if there's a telephone number associated with that account. Now, if there is, then I'm using Twilio to go out and send from the phone number that I got, send them a text with an output. And that output is really just I went out and created a random number from 100,000 to 999,000, sort of a 6-digit number for confirmation. Now, if they don't have a phone number on file, then I go out and I send them an email. So I just use the email that they've got on file and then return that information. So now what I can do is the bot can go out and say, I sent you an email confirmation, and the user has to enter in the response. And then I've got one final step here, which is validating the confirmation. Now, I'm going out and running a flow to validate this, because for some reason I couldn't create a condition based off the confirmation response and the user response. So all this flow does is it just runs and it does a simple condition, and then if the system response is the same as the user response, then it sets it to true. Otherwise, it's by default it's false. And then once it's gone through that, then if it's true, then this is where we're going to continue on with the conversation, because we've approved this user and we can start having a conversation with them. If not, then again I say, did you type in the right confirmation code? And if you want to retry, then it goes back up here and it tells the user that they've received a confirmation code and to enter it again, and it will continue on. So all of this is really just a simple authentication, but it's not going out and using any passwords. It's using the information that the user should know. And just as a side note, so I'm using Twilio. I'm using Twilio as the SMS mechanism, and it's going out and creating the SMS message. So if I look at this and try to run it, then I can say help, and we can see that it's going to move through the steps for me, and it's going to say what is my email address. And now it's going to go out, it's going to run that flow, and it's going to get my email account, and it's sending me a confirmation. Now I'm going to go over to my phone, and the verification code that it sent me was 828492. And then it's going to validate me, and then we're going to move through into the process. So that was a quick example of how you can add sort of SMS or email validation into the process within your Power Automate bots. So I thought that was useful, and this is a good technique that I'm probably going to use quite a lot.